We are recording with a fellow Tim Dillon and Ray Kump aficionado, David Gosselin, on Wednesday, March 29th, 3:48 p.m. Eastern Time, 2023. Guys, if you want to support the show, you're watching on Rumble, click the little red button above for locals. That's Rumble's version of Patreon. You can support the show for a couple bucks a month, get exclusive stuff, promo code Tommy, get some free stuff. And also, if you don't want that, the merch store is back up. Those are all my custom designs from back in the day when I did graphic design. That will be the first link in the description. All those proceeds go to making this podcast better. But today we're going to talk about, and as you said, an unfortunately topical topic, MK Ultra, coming in the wake of the Nashville shooting where that person went in and shot, I think, killed 3 kids. Totally fucked up. But there's also irrefutable provable U.S. history that we have manipulated and gone for mind control and Manchurian candidates. And whenever someone does something that is so out of the norm, you do have to raise the question of, is there something more going on? But that, David, please take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate. And at the same time as I say it's unfortunate, what's also unfortunate is that everybody's a lot of people are probably kind of numb to this kind of stuff by now, right? So I think, yeah, it always helps to check in with ourselves, right, and be present. So like, how do we actually think about these things? Because I mean, would the government really, you know, would there be agencies or programs that are really designed to target patients within the psychiatric uh, treatment world, the prison system, identifying people that already have issues and looking for ways to exploit different conditions and try different things, including program killers. And actually, there's this book that I read, which is really a banger. I mean,
Oh yeah, chaos.
Chaos, Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s by Tom O'Neill. Oh, gosh. I would wake up for a few months. Every day I woke up in the morning, went to my McDonald's down the street, had my McDonald's coffee, and would just read this. That was like the first 2 hours of my day.
Yeah.
It was, in sex cults, program killers. But it was actually a nice way to start the day in that it was really it was a journey, so for beginning of my day was like a journey into hyperspace.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the MK Ultra, one of the most coveted goals was the creation of false memories and programmed assassins, and how would that be done? And I think, people are wondering, yeah, we're always wondering, like, how is this done, or how could this really be? And then part of us is like, we're crazy for just thinking that, even
Mm-hmm.
though stuff is actually on record. Dr. Jolly West, who was one of the leading MK Ultra researchers, I mean, this is literally in his letters that Tom O'Neill cites, where, it was the question of how do you from create false memories, implant false memories, which ultimately means, I mean, if you can implant false memories, then you're changing people's uh, perception of not only the past but really the present, right?
Well,
If
it's
things happen,
complete reality fabrication.
yeah. And the interesting thing is, like now, we even hear like there's so much talk of UFO sightings, and the great disclosure, and the new reality, and the government needs to, come clean about what it knows about UFOs, and like Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, John
Uh-huh.
Podesta, Harry Reid, they have spearheaded this disclosure stuff. Lawrence Rockefeller founded the Disclosure Project in like 1992. And then you get these stories. Like I was looking on Joe Rogan, and all these big Lex Friedman. They have this guy. His name's Robert Graves, I believe. And they're just talking about all their encounters with UFOs, and like, yeah, and my other friend, he also, they're pilots, so okay, it's not like, yeah, they are flying and stuff, that maybe makes it a bit more credible. But I mean, they also work at, US military air bases, which is where Jolly West just, also did experiments on mind control and stuff. So yeah, it also happens that mind control experiments were done at US air bases, historically. And you have US Air Force air fighter pilots who, talk about seeing UFOs, and who probably, there's a good chance they saw something. But other stories of people being abducted by aliens. Like, people remember weird stuff sometimes, right? We hear stories of people remembering all sorts of strange things from their past. And this is something that second banger, the two books that I you know, really, they're really bangers. Richard Bandler's Guide to Transformation, TRANCE dash formation, which is kind of cool. But he talks about false memories, repatterning the past. And I'll just read this to you, because this has nothing, like, this is just a book about hypnosis and making your life better. But there's a chapter 18. It's called Repatterning the Past, the Magic of False Memories. And I'll just read you this little excerpt here. It's going to lead us down a rabbit hole, but I mean, I guess we're used to that at this point, right?
Fucking go, dude.
False memories were something we heard a lot about a few years ago, because some therapists were actually installing in their clients memories of things that had never happened by the ignorant way they asked questions and made suggestions. This practice caused terrible problems for the individuals and their families, especially when the therapist suggested indirectly that Uncle Fred had not just been giving them a bath when they examined some childhood photographs together. These therapists would go through the client's pictures and select perfectly innocent snaps of, say, a baby sitting on someone's knee. Then they'd ask the client questions like, how can you be sure that was all that was happening? How do you know your uncle or aunt wasn't interfering with you? And of course, since they couldn't possibly be sure, it had to be true. So he goes on, it's very easy to lead people in ways that get them to, quote unquote, remember things that never happened, especially if they're very young or in an altered state. I remember watching those old films of a hypnotherapist regressing people who claimed to have been abducted by aliens, and they always followed a certain pattern. The hypnotist would say things like, so, it's a warm night on July 5th, and you're asleep in your room, right? And suddenly you hear a noise. You remember that, don't you? The subject would say, uh-huh, yeah, I guess so. And you become aware that whatever is making that noise is in there with you near your bed, don't you? The person would say with greater conviction, yes, that's right, near my bed. That's right, near your bed. Noises. And how many aliens are there in the room? So Bandler explains, this kind of language is extremely persuasive because it operates below the level of conscious awareness. We recognize these patterns from the Milton model, quote unquote, quote, you hear a noise. Something is with you in the room. You become aware that it's near you, don't you? All these statements function as commands to do something embedded within a seemingly innocent sentence. The listener's unconscious mind hears them as injunctions rather than questions or statements, and then experiences them as true. If you get a subject to agree enough about other things, dates, times, locations, and so on, he's altogether more likely to perceive a statement presupposing there are aliens as true. This is hypnosis in its simplest but still very powerful form. That's how to harness the power of hypnosis to ignite effortless and lasting change, make your life better. Remember, all those aliens caused all the problems that you have. It's those fucking aliens, man. That's
And if it's not aliens, it's anything that you want the target to focus on. Don't you remember, David? how Castro hit your mom? I do. Even if
Yeah.
you've never been to Cuba, I do remember that. And wouldn't you want to do something back to him? Make him feel pain. Here's a car
Yeah.
comp.
And imagine if you put me on LSD and modafinil, or no, that probably would be a good mix, but
Definitely that
some
would wake you up. You'd want LSD and maybe like I don't know, maybe
after
like a
sleep.
yeah, no, you
uh,
want LSD, but you want pure freak out. You want LSD with like a very low dose of Xanax or something. You'd want the suggestive without the total like impairment and like psychosis.
See, now we sound like pretty much what Ultra is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even that you have to be that smart, right? If you're just kind of trying shit and you're workshopping and you have a twisted brain, like your mind's gonna go places that
So
for most just doesn't.
right now
And
you and I are playing a game of like if we were it's 1960, you and I are in the basement in Langley and we're going if we had to, right? But the difference is we then stop and go, this shit's so fucked up, right? Then either you're a true believer and or you're a psychopath. You're going, yeah, I mean, if this helps prevent nuclear war, I think we would be morally in the wrong to not do it. We'll go get one guy. We'll go
we
get a
want
criminal. He's a bad guy. He's lost his right to life. Let's go
the
fuck
commies. We got to defeat the commies, right?
at
I
all
mean,
costs.
at all costs, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, the first in this book, Tom O'Neill talks about how Jolly West says, of course, we're going to have like volunteers. We're going to have air base men and whatnot, and also people within the hospital or prison system, right? Which might not be witting or willing, but they'll actually be a good we could there'll be a good dry run, right? Because they already have different conditions, personality disorders, and or how do you what are the characteristics of personality disorders? How, can you induce personality disorders? That's actually something that he talks about. I don't know if I'm going to get this quote here, but yeah, he says like, yeah, we'll study people that have mental disorders, and at the same time, we can see like how can you induce these things. And yeah, I don't. Did you ever see that Tim Dillon or listen to the podcast where he interviews Nick Bryant?
Yeah,
And
I read the Franklin scandal because of that podcast.
okay, so they talk about what really stuck out is when he talks about how they found manuals in a factory, the Finders group or
Uh-huh.
whatnot.
The goat heads, keep the kids moving, the teletypes, yeah.
Yeah, and they have like different programmings, Delta
Delta,
programming.
sex slave, assassin, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so like there's actually manuals on how you create split personalities to, if you want to. I actually know somebody who's, I mean, was a victim of serious child sex abuse,
Hmm.
had split personalities in the past, and they recovered. They made it way to the other side. And I mean, of course, it was a close family member, but they had been renamed by that family member, and that's one of the things they do, right? So that if you want to get people to split off, and this is done when they're children, right? So if you're giving kids drugs, you're using hypnosis, and you're renaming them, so then like how do these things look later on in life?
Yeah.
And all the long-term programs. But yeah, so this was done. I mean, I know somebody who this actually was done to, and was it connected to that? There's certain eerie resemblances, but this is real stuff, right? The Franklin cover up was a cover up of real things. And so we talk, this is dark stuff, right? But at the same time, we're talking about it to demystify it, and take us away from this Hollywood Clockwork Orange style brainwashing stuff, and like, what does this stuff actually look like in real life? And how is it done? How does somebody actually come to get, split personalities. And I mean, it can happen in all sorts of ways. And so when you have all these subjects in the prison system, I mean, where are they going? Right? So this is the sample population that a lot of this stuff is done with, or maybe they already hear voices. And, one day the voices told them to kill the president, or don't kill the president. Right. And same way, if I tell you, don't think about the color blue, what are you thinking about?
Yeah.
And now, if you have an obsessive thought disorder, and you have different things, like, again, we're like spitballing MK Ultra 1960s, like, how would we, what would we do? And yeah, shit gets pretty wild pretty quickly.
And then you have military funding. You have guarantee Black Ops never declassified. Annie Jacobson has a great term. It's called Born Black, and it's a project that will never be declassified. So not even your grandkids will disown you. Born Black, unlimited funding, the moral superiority. You got to remember, dude, 60, it's 15 years after World War II. 85 million dead, the Holocaust, A-bombs. It's in
Right.
black and white photos in your social studies book in middle school. This isn't grandpa telling you about Pearl Harbor. This is
Right.
closer in the rearview mirror to them than 9/11 is for us. All right. You have all of that. Got to beat the commies. And then we already know who rises to the top of really any organization, especially intelligence organizations, psychopaths and sociopaths. And it's just what it is. That's a whole nother argument for another time, but it is what it is. And if you're looking at in terms of these cold military calculus of, listen, we can nuke Hiroshima and kill 300,000 or 150,000 civilians, or we can do a mainland invasion, lose a million Americans and kill 10 million civilians. There is no third option. Someone has to make the call, and it's a very dark thing, right? It's a few good men. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall because, I do the things that you don't want to talk about at parties. Well, now you have someone going, we ruin one person's life, and it's unforgivable what we're going to do. We save a billion. All of a sudden, if you're not on board with that, you're a fucking commie.
It's a nice false choice, isn't it?
It's a very nice false choice. Makes you feel great.
Yeah.
And then it's also like you're pushing science. You're a scientist. You are getting a once in a lifetime opportunity. Forget corporate funding. We're giving you military funding, unlimited, and you have a free conscience because the president orders it for national security. You're a mad scientist, dude. This is your wet dream. You're like, let's go, baby. This is Iron Man in a shop. Build whatever you want. And you do that and you start walking it out. And how difficult is it? And so the reason why we do have to talk about it like we are now is, and it's a sentence that I actually quote a lot from that episode with Nick Bryant. I think it was Sex Slaves and Assassins, or it's Everything's Fucked. I think they did two of them. But he says at the end, he's like, do I think I'm gonna change all of this? I think, paraphrasing, he's like, no. But to start a conversation, you have to first diagnose it. It might take 200 years for us as a society to take this thing in and deal with it. You have to at first start the conversation. And that's what I try to do with all sorts of weird topics. I'm like, we're the Wright brothers doing the first flight. We're not going to see a 747. We have to start. And it's the importance of having the all jokes aside, provable US history. We have to broach these things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess part of the reason it's might be difficult to come to terms with these things is that our understanding and memories, collective memories of the past, of what history has been, are very distorted. Right. So what do you mean, like, our intelligence agencies would, do all sorts of heinous things to maintain, the, their an empire, right? Supremacy, dominance, full spectrum dominance. Like, what are you talking about? right? And one of the realities is that, and this was studied as well, like, you know, going back to Tavistock and family therapy, that people shut down when things are more than they can handle. They shut down and they enter a world of make believe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Parts of themselves split off, right? They disassociate the parts that they don't like, or the things that they don't like that are too difficult, or that they don't know how to deal with. They just, these things get disassociated, they break off, and parts of people, you know, are broken off. And you know, we can go our whole lives, people live their whole lives sort of trying to avoid like some little thing in the corner, right? Or that seems like just a little thing tucked in the corner. It's kind of in the shadows, so you don't have to think about it too much. But yet, there's always an itch, right? There's almost like an itch in your soul, and you always need to like do different things to make it go away. You know, some are better than others, from exercise. Uh, I mean, that's a good example. Bad example, lots of drugs,
Mm-hmm.
or drugs are less worse than others. Like if we're talking health wise, you know, don't stop taking your heart medication if you take heart medication. That's not, I don't support that. Yeah. So I when it comes to collective past memories and history, it's not very different from the same thing that people that we see in family systems. And this is what, like, family therapy and all this like control of group dynamics, and how do you create artificial cultures and tribes, and you get people to, you know, swear allegiance to their tribe, to their political party, right? What's a political party if not a special kind of extended family, you know, or a tribe, right? The greatest danger in evolutionary terms for any individual was the threat of expulsion from the tribe. And shame was actually, it's hypothesized that shame is really the shame emotion, which is one of the first things that children can experience, right? They're either uh, in disgrace shadows or reflected glory, right? There's a saying that children know themselves either in disgrace shadows or reflected glory. So it's quite black and white. It's very visceral. And so from a tribal evolutionary standpoint, right, you needed something to keep the tribesmen in line, right? And it's not like these people are, you know, uh, they're their man is still quite raw and primitive, right, and impulsive. I mean, man still is all those things, but go back a couple, you know, 100,000 years. So try shame in these. There's certain emotions that keep people in line, because there's a suggestion that, well, hey, if you don't, if you can't play by the rules, you're out, or if, and you're as good as dead if you're out of the tribe. Same with like animals, you know, like if a wolf or a monkey or whatnot, they're expelled from the pack, you know, they're screwed. So that goes to like the most visceral, what's it called? A limbic
Re-
system, I believe.
reptilian brain,
Yeah.
yeah, limbic system.
Yeah. So, but then that gets to the perversity of the social engineering culture that is our brave new world, right? Or like the pod life, right? The whole cubicle organizational structure world, which is again what the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations. Like if you ever had an office job and you're unsatisfied with your experience, I mean, these things were, you know, how do you shape the space and the environment, and you have all the different systems of feedback to get people to know what's good. You know, like if you do certain things, we're going to give you goodies. And if, you know, you get a free Starbucks coffee once a month, if you sell like $500,000 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and so you condition people, right? And so this comes from studying family systems, and then it's just extended. And how do you create other family systems? How to use these things to, you know, have other situations mimic those, so that people respond in a certain, you know, they have that warm feeling, and like, oh,
Mm.
you think you could do something, you know, would you be able to work Saturday late? You know, we're a bit short. Okay, fine. You know, their tone changes. Management's tone changes when they ask you for something, and like, are you a team player? Yeah, you know, like we like cooperation, but it's
Hans, are you a team player? Yeah, yeah. Could you shoot the little children in the head? I mean, but that's right. And there's only one way you can go back against it. And it's well, there's two ways. There's exposure therapy, and then there's stomping out the weed. One is exposure therapy. Step out and experience the shame, right?
mm,
Don't when I decided I didn't want to go to medical school and just kind of went through my own whole deconstruction of who I was in conjunction with massive trauma, losing a brother to suicide. I mean,
right.
I decided not to go to medical school, tried psychedelics, and lost a brother to suicide all within like 4 weeks of each other. Like
Oh,
that, yeah,
okay.
yeah, dude. I like MK ultra'd myself, and I completely deconstructed who I was, like pre-med, preppy, frat boy Tommy. And there's shame. You lose all the friends. You're the outcast. You're the weirdo. You're the one that's not going to grad school. You're the one that's not getting an apartment in Atlanta. You're the one who's like, man, I want to fucking go off and do what there's shame. And that shame is near lethal. But
Mm,
if you can get through it, you can come out on the other side and realize that the shadows of shame, it's like, bro, just go step into the sunlight or just turn on your own light and you're free of that. So that's exposure therapy. And then the other is stomping it out like a weed. When you
mm,
start to see these systems come in, hey, well, you can stay on Facebook and do everything, but listen, if you keep pushing this disinformation about the Pfizer shot being bad, we're gonna have to put you in Facebook jail. We're not gonna ban you, Bob, but you can't look at cat memes for a week, all right? But we'd love to have you back. Okay, I won't
right.
do. Just these little slight nudges. You just can't post that. All right, well, hey, you're posting disinformation about the Ukraine war. So if you could just cut that out, or we're not even gonna ban you. We're just gonna de-rank your post. Oh, all right, I get you. Well, you walk it out 40, 50, 60 years, and much like a Model T becoming a Tesla, or the Wright brothers becoming of the Wright Flyer becoming a double-decker Airbus A380, where you can lay in a literal bed and eat sushi as you fly to Tokyo. Well, let's walk
Right.
this out. Let's really walk this out. Hey,
Mm.
it's 2075. Hey, Tom, each did that episode with Dave Gosselin. So we've got 11 complaints from that. So you unfortunately that means you can't do 11 days without Uber Eats. Okay. But walk it out even farther past that. Mr. Kerrigan, if you could please pull over, we have 11 complaints against you, men with guns. And then finally, it's you have 11 years in prison. You keep walking it out. It's not gonna go backwards. And so what all you can do now is when you see this little vine coming up, you have to fucking take a blowtorch to it. It's the
Yeah, yeah.
only way. And well, if I take a blowtorch to it, and what if they kill me for fighting the system? You're doing yourself a favor by removing yourself from the hellscape that's coming. So exposure therapy and cut it out like the cancer it is.
Yes, and I mean at the same time, there's always a counterpoint in that sometimes what people makes things worse, the solution become that is worse than the problem, right? And that's the other thing. So that's why it's important to, I guess we always got to be present, right? Whenever we're
Mm,
in um, extenuating circumstances, shall we
sure.
say, or things of new boundary conditions, right? Where we react based on like a certain instinct or impulse.
Correct.
And yeah, oftentimes, right, the solution is what are they? What was we heard a million times? I still don't remember. Like this cure can't be worse than
Yeah,
the,
like yeah,
the solution.
don't take what I'm saying and be like, you're right. We got to remove Facebook now. I'm putting a bomb on my chest. No, because now you're ending your life, you're harming others, your mom's going to be sad, you're never going to be able to have sex again outside of a prison. So you're right. Maybe I'm offering a false like set of two choices.
Oh, but I still agree. But it's the idea that we have to be present at all times whenever and to face with these situations because the magnitude is big, right? When you play out like the whole Facebook thing and like the implications are so huge, and so we need to have a conversation, right? As you were just quoting from the Nick Bryant podcast, and like that's really the first step, right? Because I think oftentimes people will going back even to the shame, right? People have feelings they don't like, and their first response is to do something to like push it down. But that's usually like that's where the real trouble starts, right? It's not even it's that there's something wrong that's there that needs to be dealt with, but it's that like people panic, you know, and they react viscerally, understandably so, especially when things are very complicated, you're whatever, you got split personalities, you were abused, seriously abused, like things when people were really children, and it hits them later. It's hard not to respond, right? But yeah, we have to have a conversation, because if we can't put a name on the problem, there's no way we're going to solve it. And interestingly, once we do that, though, it's like we often find ourselves in a totally different world, right? Like we're freed, because at least we're calling things by their name. And sometimes that just means acknowledging how serious or bad a situation is, which is the thing that people are really afraid of, right? It's not even that the situation is super serious, but it's the thought that they'll have to, it's the imagined, the threat of the situation in the mind. The thought of it is scarier than the real thing, because when we're actually in the middle, in the thick of something, like even danger, like your automatic systems kick in, your adrenaline kicks in. People respond in miraculous ways, right? And they can be very heroic, as seemingly just like regular folks, right? All of a sudden, like, become real heroes. And I think, yeah, so we have to remember that, and that the thoughts are sometimes the more lethal. And with all this conspiracy stuff, like the real conspiracies, we're talking about real conspiracies here, conspiracy facts, not conspiracy theories. It's actually easier once you start to talk about these things than if you just live in the world of make believe, which is like just a total prison. And yeah, so you do want to stomp the thing out, but oftentimes that just means like you have to call things by their name, and enough with the make believe, right? Because that's a never ending thing. That's just, and we play it out. That's what I like. That was the other thing you said. Like, how did you say it? Like, it was your first example. Like
the right flyer to the 747.
well, you draw it out, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like,
Extrapolate it 50, 100, 150 years.
yeah. So I remember hearing somebody once was saying, like, people who, let's say they were alcoholics, or like they were recovering alcoholics, and one of the things that an exercise that they would do to avoid relapse is to play out what their night's gonna be like if they like go to the bar and see like
Uh,
Butch and the boys, right? Like what's gonna, okay, it's fun at first, but like what's gonna, that's like at 7 p.m., and you're just like, hey, da-da-da. But like what does 8 p.m. look like? And whatever. How much money have you lost by like 9 p.m.? It's like, what, about $200? How much is your rent? How much do you make a week? And it's like $50. I don't know. But you play it out, and that really does help, right? For people to, oftentimes they're not playing out scenarios, and they're stuck, and they respond based on the false or fixed set of options that the present moment seems to present. And you have to you compartmentalize. You have no choice, because it's like you're in a pod, right? So that, yeah, I find that's a very useful exercise for everything, like in our lives. Like, do we want to be that dude or that person that was afraid for XYZ reasons? And we don't even know what the other us would look like, if we actually do take that leap of faith, do call things by their name. We don't even know what's going to happen, which is kind of exciting, right? Like, that all sorts of things could happen. And that mystery is oftentimes probably more interesting than like the predictable shit, right? Which seems safer, which is, I guess, why, anyone or any of us have ever like, stuck to something, even though we're like, I don't like this. It makes me feel icky.
It's safe. It's one thing I started doing right when this podcast started is I worked at a liquor store like summer 2020. I just fucking hated it. People are good, as people are employees, whatever, coworkers were fine. It's just it's a shit minimum wage job. You got to go move box. You just don't want to do it. It's whatever.
Hmm.
And I used to, you're just always looking at the clock. What time is it? What time is it? What time is it? 7 hours left, 5 hours left, 3 hours left, an hour left, 25 minutes left. And then I just always remember like that bliss of like, and checking out. And you're like, later. And you're like, your mood changes and you're walking out the front door. You got your keys. The sun's still shining. You're like, fuck yeah.
Right.
And then the next morning you'd wake up and you'd be like, oh, I have to go to work. And I just remember one day, like maybe September 2020, I was walking into the liquor store. It was like 9 a.m. Birds are chirping. I was like, fuck this. And I just remember like a voice in my head saying, like, the shift's already over. And I was just like, and I went through the whole day bullshit, mopping, cleaning the toilet, taking out the trash. And then I walked out and it was like, and here we are. And I was like, every day I would go into work and I'd say, it's already over.
Mm,
And now it's over. And I did a
mm,
podcast with a friend and I was telling him this story. And I was like, Trey, it's like September 9th, 2020. It's like if I keep working at this podcast, and I'm living above my parents' garage at the time, I'm like, if I keep doing this podcast, I'm gonna blink and I'm there. So I was like, I'm already there. And I now
sure.
look back at it. We're coming up on this September will be 36 months.
Nice.
I'm living in my own apartment with my own studio. I have a room just for the studio. Podcast has succeeded beyond my dreams. And I'm like, it's already here. So, but the point of that is to say it's already here. I'll do that with the show. Be like, it's Wednesday night. Ooh, I get a little fucked up tonight. But it's like I have 3 podcasts
I'm
tomorrow.
note
Okay.
to self. It's
Yeah.
already done. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
But that also works with bad things. I go, it's already tomorrow morning. It's not. It's what? It's 4 p.m., 4:30. I can get some beer after this episode. I'll send it to David, get a little fucked up, listen to a little Tim Dillon, play some video. It's gonna be fun. No, it's already. You're waking up tomorrow and the birds are chirping. What do you mean? Hey, you're already waking up on not enough sleep. You're having some anxiety from alcohol withdrawal. You feel like shit. You're kind of tired. You're thinking about canceling your shows. Your stomach's kind of queasy. Your bedroom's a mess because you got fucked up and just walked into bed and passed out. I don't want that. I don't want that to be here. Do you want to be leaving the gym feeling great knowing you got another podcast? I want that. Well, that's already here. So choose which one you want. But that goes for everything is walk it out. Look at it really and don't say it's going to happen. Say it's here. Which one do
Yeah.
you want?
Yeah, and I mean, just these examples and the other examples that we talked about, and it's like again, so then you think the way time can be condensed, or we're thrown into like a timeless moment, right, where everything sort of shifts, the frame and everything changes. There's a million ways to do that, good and bad, right? And a lot of these techniques are neutral, right? They can be used like in the false memories thing. Actually, I don't like to. I don't want to just talk about negative things, but I mean, your thing was pretty positive. You made it to the other side. I
Yeah.
like that, and we need more stories like that. Now, dark story, nice counterpoint, right? Art's all about contrast, anyways. Good contrasts. Um, yeah, he was saying for the false memories, like you could tell somebody, this is in Jolly West's letters. It's, let's say the year was 1944, and you'll say, it's 19 or whatever, yeah, 1944. You say it's 1950, and a lot of things have already happened. Da-da-da. You already, went to your house and you saw this and you did that, and the president said this, and here we are now. And so a lot of things that we couldn't talk about before, now we can talk about them. And you keep adding things, right? And they're very powerful, right? The mind is very powerful, and it doesn't necessarily work the way we think it works all the time, right? Like if I say, don't think about the color blue, which is one of the examples that Bandler uses in his book, Guide to Transformation. And yeah, he's saying like that the mind doesn't necessarily work the way we think of it, and don't think about the color blue. There's a command there. But so it sounds, and he talks about stacking realities. So like a story within a story within a story within a story, where it's not clear we're talking about one thing, but we're really talking about another. Or a person saying one thing, but they're really saying something else, or they're saying something completely different. And especially when there's nested loops. So when you become confused about which parts of which story belong to which section, your mind, depending on how the structures are stored, your mind's going to latch on to what it can remember, right? That's not, so it goes into the subconscious. It goes into the deeper structures of the psyche, because that's what you can feel. Whereas the analytical part, it doesn't go through. And so you can put through things that people will be left with certain things or will remember certain things, and they won't remember all the other stuff, right? And that's, I mean, that's kind of normal, right? We can think of all sorts of things where all sorts of things happen to us, right? And for some reason, we remembered certain things and other things we completely forgot. So it's really it's a vast field, and it can be used for great good, or, I mean, if it is powerful, then yeah, were it to fall into the wrong hands, people can get all sorts of crazy ideas stuck in their head. I mean, hell, I don't think I've been MK Ultra, and I have different stupid ideas stuck in my head at different times. I was like, that's such a stupid idea, or thought, or feeling, right? Is like, well, it's there, and just calling it stupid doesn't actually do very much, right? Like, it doesn't change your affect, doesn't change the way you feel about yourself or the situation. And so, yeah, it's, the whole book is about different ways that you can kind of intervene on these things by recognizing the modalities, what's your mind really doing? How does it work? How did things go from thought to feeling? And that's definitely, I feel, an important, how do we bridge the realm of thought and feeling, the heart and mind, right? How many times, or, this is a timeless theme, right? But people have one thing in their mind, but a different thing in their heart. And it's, it's an art, right? To be able to bridge those worlds, which I'd say is really kind of what art is, or should be, right? It's visceral. Like, great art has great sublime or profound ideas, but it's also beautiful, and it awakens something inside us that makes us desire, at least this is the way Plato talks about it, going back to the Republic, where we can come to desire beauty, truth, and goodness as things that we feel, right? In the same way that you talked about feeling good about doing something that's good for you, you could know that something's good for you, but not really be down, And so that works at so many levels. And if it can work at the level of good, then surely it can work at the level of bad. And if people have trouble imagining that in this world it goes both ways, then, I mean, get out of here. Like, go watch Teletubbies. Go watch the next Marvel shitty cocaine bear movie or whatever
Whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah, go watch that. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Did you see apparently some Star Wars guy? I've never seen a single Star Wars, but I recognize the name Mark Hamill. I guess he was a fucking, I don't know. He's like recording the air raid sirens for Ukraine, and it's like the Empire is attacking, and then when the air raid stops, it's like the Force be with you. And there's like this was like 3 days ago, and there's like 900,000 upvotes on Reddit, and it's like, this is so wholesome. And I'm just like, you're breaking away from reality. Like, that is more intoxicating than just like slugging a bottle of Everclear. Did you see that the Luke Skywalker is helping the Ukrainians fight Russia? And it's like,
Right.
You infantilize, like, the brainwashing's complete.
Aliens don't sound that bad at that point.
At that
right?
point, I'm like, Putin, fuck it, hit the button. Like, I'm like, the infantilization of our society is so complete. Just everything is like, I got my new Marvel action figure, so wholesome. And it's like, dude, we are we are a house of cards that an external enemy can just poke. Like we are not. It's just people like this is so wholesome. This is just like Harry Potter. We have we are breaking away from reality instead of comparing things to actual events. Like though this is like the draft for World War II, and Grandpa had to say goodbye to Grandma and go fight on Iwo Jima. Instead, it's like this is like Harry Potter, and it's like we are basing things on fiction, and then the next step will be to base things on this war, which we're basing on fiction. We are basing things off of things is reflections of echoes of shadows of memories. We are completely going out into the wilderness. And once you're sufficiently far away from reality, there is no direction. Your compass means shit. Anyone can come in and rebuild a reality and say, this is right, this is wrong. Men can have babies, up is down, down is up, ocean water is racist, zebras are actually professors, nothing is real. That's where we're
Right.
going. That's exactly where we're going.
Yeah, I mean, it's really wild, and it's funny. Like, of course, we hear about this all the time, right? Like, the West is in trouble. The world's in people are struggling. People are not well. The West is in trouble, and but yeah, like unless we really get to, it's like you have to have a conversation at a certain point. I guess this is our recurring theme here. We have to have conversations, right? And you know, once you do that, I mean, it makes a big difference because then we can talk about solutions. And I do think that, because there is a lot of conspiracy fact stuff, like real intense stuff. Um, and I think, yeah, it's important to, the way I see it, we're only talking about all this dark stuff because we want to get to the good stuff, right? We want to get to the real thing, right? To actual goodness, truth, and beauty, and how we can participate and contribute to these things, which are lasting, right? And if our lives are to have meaning, uh, you know, why not participate in something that is bigger than ourselves, but that is also uh, rooted in beauty, truth, and goodness, as opposed to mere imitations, right? Or clever illusions and mimicry. And I think that's to get excited about that we can get a taste of the real thing, right? That we can actually get a taste, and God willing, even maybe participate, have some sort of active role in that, in the proliferation and creation of new forms of this beauty, truth, and goodness, which we see, you know, it's been around throughout history, right? Like it's not, there's always been a struggle against imitations and evil, which I'd say, the legacy of evil is the legacy of imitations. It's all the things that we're convinced is the real thing are the things that will make us feel good, that will make us happy, right? That are like good causes, standing with Ukraine and think of the Ukrainian children and stuff that just, it goes to people's hearts and minds, which the bad guys know is, unless it's in the hearts and minds of people, it's not going to stick. And so everything is about how do we get things to sink into the deep structures of people's psyche so that it does trickle into their hearts, and it does color the images in their heads. So, I mean, when we start thinking about the good that comes from that and making it to the other side, and that a whole different kind of world actually awaits us, right? If we have the balls to actually, make a decision, I think that's important. And I remember hearing, every once in a while, we're all on YouTube, right? So you see a video sometimes, or you're watching one thing and there's this other suggestion. You're like, you know what? Part of me is like, bullshit. It's like some inspiration thing, or not inspiration, but like whatever.
What
There's all,
you just click on it for whatever.
yeah. And so, but it was actually an interesting one where the guy, you could tell it's a lot of like NLP inspired, like neuro linguistic programming inspired, like what's his name, the Tony Robbins, but like seems a bit more serious, or I don't want to say serious, maybe advanced.
Sincere.
Uh, yeah, but he made the point because they were talking about like addiction or trauma, right? How do people recover from trauma? And he was making the point that like, and this will tie into how is it, why it has to be in the heart and mind. Um, and he was saying people don't recover from trauma just by like, there's like this talk therapy idea, or like, well, like they know why they're doing the things that they do. Addicts will often know, like, to a degree, or the idea that people don't know at some level why they're doing the shit they're doing. They can know for 30 years, right? But the thing that causes, he was saying, people to really change is to get excited uh, about this new thing, right? To get excited about the different life that they're imagining, but that they're really envisioning for themselves, right? Because they've rehearsed so many times the bad stuff, right? And the compulsive thoughts and like replaying shit. They've rehearsed that a million trillion times, right? So it's very familiar. Your body, your muscle memory, everything is anchored to it. And so he just made the point that the people who really change are the people who start to get excited about the other thing, right? About the idea of getting to the real thing, getting to their own deeper true self, right? As opposed to all the external bullshit that was either, imposed on them or that they had to create as a facade in order to operate within a largely, artificial world that's just, mimicry and illusions, and like you're supposed to say the right thing and go through the motions, but like at the end of the day, it's all, it's gross, or like it's soul deadening, right? So the people who break out of that are the people who start to actually emote and create new states of affectation with these other ideas, which are noble, these other visions, which are good. And so I think that's important, right? In the whole mind war, that if we just talk about the bad, but which is necessary, right? But then it's like, how are we talking about it? Like, from what standpoint are we getting at it? What's the good? Are we looking at the bad from the standpoint of an understanding of the simple truth of the deeper goodness that is innate in the soul of each human being, right? That part of us that has something divine. Are we approaching the bad from that standpoint, or are we just approaching the bad from like a black pilled, cynical, whatever boomer, like nothing new under the sun kind of, I was once like you and da da da, we tried to change the world and da da da, and then, they got a job and they just, they're just out to lunch for the rest until the end, they're just
Yeah.
permanent, spiritual retirement, mental retirement. And it's just, Tim Dillon always talks about like his dad, right? His
Yeah,
dad's like
just
out.
checked out. Just checked out.
Exactly.
He's dad is like, Dad, I just made $2 million on Patreon. He's like, yeah, that's good for you, kid. You're just whatever. It's just like, dude's
Yeah.
gone.
All right, the dog, dog
The yeah,
kibble and
yeah, he won't
5 times.
wake up unless you pet him. He's just we're at a funeral and he's like, this dog is just checked
What is
out.
he? Yeah, and so it's like, I don't want that guy.
No.
I don't want to be checked out. I want to be present, and I want to get to the real thing. And so I feel that then, it's like, yeah, okay, so let's talk about some shit. Let's get into the weeds here, because we want to make it to the other side, in the same way that, Dante didn't get to paradise without first having to go through
Walk
hell.
through it all. Yeah. Find yourself in hell, keep walking.
Yeah, and sometimes I guess that's where, we're told, like, sometimes people have to see how bad it gets before they kind of like come back online, or come online, in many cases. And, maybe it's true, but like, maybe we've hit rock bottom. And, there's a great line by Louis C.K. in one of his stand-ups where he's like, he said like a really bad joke, and he's like, okay, I think this is rock bottom. And he's like, that feels good. It feels good. Okay, because now it's just up. It's just up from here. And so yeah, maybe we've hit rock bottom. Maybe that's a good thing. And maybe now we're freed to think about new stuff, good stuff, because I mean, this is clearly, it's not, it hasn't worked. The magic is over, right? The show's over.
You made a great point though about being excited, and you do stick with habits regardless of them being good or bad. You just stick with them out of comfort. Again, your muscle memory is this is what we do, this is what I do, this is just what we do on Wednesdays, and it's comfortable. That was actually like one of the reasons, like when I first started the podcast, was to like start dieting again, start getting enough sleep, going to the gym every day, reading
Right.
books, is because I had just exhausted the whole eat every time you want to eat, sleep whenever you want to sleep, play video games, jerk off, do nothing, be lazy. It wasn't even some inspirational, like, and I woke up one day and I saw the sunrise and said, today's it. No, it was just like I had done, it wasn't that it was good or bad. It's just I had done one thing for so long. I was fucking bored. And I was like, I got excited about the idea of like reading instead of playing video games, or like dieting instead of eating, or working out instead of like jerking off. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what has led to like where the show is now, and like where I am in life now is I've just gotten so bored of the lazy do every impulse. Now it's not even that it's some like this is good for me. It's I get more of a thrill out of like I'm tired. Let's get up and go to the fucking gym. Like, you think you can do it? I don't know. Let's see if I can do it. Like, how many more episodes can you do? How many more books can you read? Can you meditate just a little longer? Can you keep the bathroom just a little cleaner? Can you just do this? That's where I just get excited now is improvement. And it's not even that it's good or bad. It's just I just got bored. I did the other one for so long. It was like, what am I gonna do? Smoke the same bong and eat the same cheeseburger for the meal? It's done. I've seen the movie. I want to play something else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, but that begs the question then, does it, I mean, does man always have to fly too close to the sun? Like, do we have to always get burnt before we learn? And I mean, on an individual basis, it's one thing, but like then we think like historically, like what does flying too close to the sun mean for Western civilization today? And these are more complex questions. Again, I'm not a doom and gloom person, uh, but I was also reflecting on how, and yeah, well, my friend, my buddy Matt had been mentioning, like, if you think of some of the great American leaders, let's say like JFK or Roosevelt, both examples, both of them were sickly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were aristocratic sort of families, but they also had humbling experiences. They had things that made them frail and weak, which forced them to find something in themselves. So I was just thinking that in terms of like, then you see folks who are just pretty run of the mill, but like they're fine, they're well adjusted and like not bad people. I like them. They're fine. They're doing all right. But then that goes both ways, because it's like, is that deeper self really even on? Like, are they online? Or if things have gone relatively well, then you're kind of on autopilot, right?
Yeah.
Unless you've been trained by like philosopher kings or sages, or like or we're in this world where people actually get a classical education, which is like almost never these days, but like the real classical education, Confucius, Plato, these things, and the kind of approaches that they had, then you got a lot of people who I surmise could come online, and it's not, and the only reason they haven't is because they're not in a situation where they've kind of been,
They don't
you know,
have to come online.
yeah, exactly. And some people don't have a choice, right? Like it's like you've hit rock bottom, or you've hit a wall, where it's like this isn't working. It's very clear. But for a lot of people, it doesn't work, and I mean they just burn out. Sure, that's also a thing. But they just fly straight into the sun. They just keep going and they say fuck it.
Yeah.
But then there's other people. There's a lot of just in the middle, and I think often if you think these are really the target for a lot of the social engineering, right? They're just kind of they just go through it. I see it, like I go to the gym. This is where my interaction with like everyday folks, let's put it that way. And so I just hear things they say, or you know, um, and you can tell, they're in the pod life, but they're doing okay. They have decent relationships, decent family. Um, but yeah, it's like there's a lot of shit going on in the world where at a certain point it's like it's not okay to not know about all these things, right? Like we're not in the garden anymore. We have to be able to have certain conversations. And so yeah, how do you how do you get these people to come online, right? How do you get regular folks to come online? And naturally it helps to think about how we came online, and then to play these things out, but to put ourselves in the shoes of other people as well. So yeah, does man always have to fly too close to the sun? That's been a big question for me. And just thinking about who are the people that do emerge. It's interesting that a lot of leaders were, some of the greatest leaders were sickly, or like Abraham Lincoln, a hell of an ugly bastard. He said it himself. Like I have to be interesting. Because this is
I ain't
not.
doing it.
Yeah, it's not the thing. It's not a vibe. It wasn't a vibe back then. Still not a vibe. But,
He's like, I gotta do something fucking crazy. I'm gonna free the
right,
slaves. I'm gonna free
yeah,
the slaves and wear a fucking top hat. Like, I gotta
exactly.
get laid somehow.
Right.
Um,
Seneca was the same thing. Seneca was like in Rome. Like you think of, like, you hear Caesar and you hear the emperors, and like they're supposed to be like, it's this like projection of strength, and da da da. And the guy's like a little short, bald dude,
yeah.
but he speaks, like he commands all the attention of all the senators and everything. Right. He has a very powerful, demeanor, but there's something deeper inside him that was activated a long time ago, and he cultivated that. And so, yeah, I think we definitely need that if we don't want to collectively fly too close to the sun
I
or
was
right
go-
into it.
I was gonna say, I think you do have to fly too close to the sun, but my own point is negated by like what I did. So like I flew too close to the sun. I hit rock bottom. I gained 70 pounds. I was addicted to Klonopin, moved home, like real piece of shit. And so from that hand, on that side, I'm like, yeah, you gotta fly too close. It's when you wake up and you're 30 living above your parents' garage, you gotta go, what am I doing with my life? But
Hmm.
the reason why I didn't keep going down and flying closer to the sun is I was like, well, what are the next steps? The next
Right.
steps are like heroin, meth, robbery. And I was like, I don't want to do those. And thus,
Interesting.
I didn't have to fly too close to the sun. I was like, I know what comes next. And I'm not going to do that. So it's a weird, like, you have to fly too close to the sun, like in your own thing.
Yeah.
Then you start to
Right.
realize you're like, oh, lessons about flying too close to the, maybe that's what it is. You have to hit rock bottom to really take home what other rock bottom lessons are. You go, oh, that guy, that was a real experience. That wasn't just a book. That wasn't just an inspirational speech. Just like I know what it's like to be broke and addicted to Xanax.
Right.
Oh, you're robbing a homeless, robbing a grandmother to get cash for heroin. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm not doing it. So you
Yeah.
don't have to hit every tree branch on the way down. You just have to hit enough before you go, the next one's going to hurt just as much.
Right. But
The-
I think you really said a crucial detail there, right? You said, well, what's next? And you played out the scenarios, and that became a visceral thing for you, right? And it's at the point that it became a visceral thing that it was like, fuck that, you know? Like, yeah, I same thing for me, there's certain things where just like, fuck that. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Um, and so then you get creative, right? But let's say again, so going back to, quote unquote, the normies,
I'm
uh,
listening. I'm making a note.
yeah, it's if they haven't had necessarily those experiences, so they haven't had to play out all sorts of different shit. Actually, they're just fine in the moment, and they're just kind of cruising. They're on cruise control, right? So they're just cruising through it. And I mean, I think for a lot of them, then you get older and certain things start to get more. A lot of the magic fades, right? Like the magic of youth fades, you know. Um, There's a lot of jokes I could make there, which I won't. But people get older. The midlife crisis, like that's happens to regular or quote unquote, regular folks because it's like, hey man, you weren't online for most of the time, and now like the universe is kind of like the walls are coming in a bit closer, and you haven't thought about a lot of things.
You're in the
And
spaceship and you're going, the
go for
sun's
it.
getting like 3% bigger a day, right? For the
Yeah,
first 100 years of the trip, it looks the same, and it's only when you look at before and after selfies of you on the spaceship, you go, oh yeah, 10 years later it looks a little bigger, and it's like, hey bro, every day we wake up, the sun looks a little bigger, and then you go, oh, we're actually going to the sun. That's not just a light
yeah.
outside the window. That is a ball of fusion. Oh man, I'm 50. I gotta buy a Corvette. I gotta leave my wife. I gotta get a fucking young. Oh, so fuck. I'm
I
jumping ship.
I got to get that blue chew that Tim Dillon's been raving.
I gotta get Blue Chew. I gotta fucking wake up and have a hard dick. I gotta get sheath underwear. What do you remember the sheath underwear ads? Robert Patron he's a virtuous pedophile.
It's
But that's what it is. And so what I mean, I guess what a weird nuanced conclusion. It's like you do, but you don't have to fly too close to the sun. You have to get like a sunburn to realize, oh, I will if we go into the sun, it's gonna be even worse.
if you're smart, and then you don't get melanoma, and some people get melanoma, right?
Yeah. And I guess
And in the highest level, I guess this is what I was thinking about. A poet translator sent me his translation of a drama by Seneca. And well, I was thinking this is where tragedy comes into play. Like art at its highest level, or the level that like Plato and the stuff we're talking about, is that, well, the whole point is tragedy is to see these rock bottom scenarios or stupid played out to its like maximum, like dial all the way. So you can see that shit played out on the stage rather than acting it out in real life.
oh.
And that's where I was like, okay, so in a good world, we would need a lot of tragedy, a lot of tragic art, right?
Um,
Like always act this shit out in real life. It has to become visceral for people from a young age, right? That's why it's Icarus that flies too close to the sun. Daedalus, his father, having made the wings that, with the wax and da da da. But Icarus was the one who, his dad knew not to fly too close. But the son, I'm flying, bro.
yeah,
So
young buck. Yeah, just
yeah, exactly. And so unless those effective systems are put in place, right, where you have a visceral feeling of disgust towards a healthy disgust towards things that are self-destructive or bad, um, and a yearning, and like this is good, and you yearn for things that are good. And again, I mean, yeah, so that then
you
it
know,
becomes a thing, like we have to, it's not just in the now, but it's about many generations. And unless, I guess, we're thinking about in terms of many generations, or certain things become clear that are not if we just think about individuals, but then we think this is a multi-generational thing that we should be involved in and thinking about. And
I'm
then,
I'm thinking, oh
yeah,
fuck, we gotta wrap this one up, and I have another podcast in 2 minutes. Shit. I was just thinking though, like I'm just getting this imagery of like it's 1923, and we're doing this podcast, and we're so detached from reality. The stock market's booming. Weimar Germany, everyone's waking up. I think like a delicacy in like Weimar Germany was like you take tulips and dip them in ether and suck them at breakfast, just get high as fuck. Like, what comes next?
right.
We have no tragedy in our art. Everything's booming. New York skyscrapers, baby, flappers, fucking everyone's doing. Yeah, man. You know what's coming? A depression, a dust bowl, and then World War fucking two. But
Yeah, get the fuck out of here.
but after that comes the post-war golden age. So we're heading for hell, but the golden gates exist after that. So I think we're in the roaring 20s. Enjoy the fucking dance. because we're going off a cliff. And after the cliff, we are then going into war. But after that is like 1950s America, fucking milkshakes and varsity jackets. And it
Yeah, so
probably just repeats forever.
I think that's not a bad place to end. Let's
That's a,
take a beat on that
yeah.
and think of and what kind of chapters do they want to write for themselves going forward.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude. As always, it's a pleasure chatting with you, man. Shoot me a reminder text if you could, like right now, because I got to do another podcast. I'm gonna forget. Shoot me just any text, but just a reminder text, so we'll schedule the next one. Because otherwise, I'll forget and we'll just float
Yeah,
off in the
sure.
ether.
Yeah, sure. And so my latest article that spurred the beginning of this discussion is out on people can just go on Age of Muses, David Gosselin. That's my Substack. So Age of Muses, David Gosselin.
The links,
Follow
the links
MK.
to all your shit. Sorry, the links to all your shit are in the description already, guys. So just go click on those, and you can see his new stuff.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Tommy, and we'll talk again soon.
Fuck yeah, man. Shoot me that text. We'll schedule
Yeah.
another one. I look forward to it. Guys, much love. And I don't know, fly too close to the sun or don't, whatever. I mean, you do you. David, take care, brother.